Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, iba nagkaroon tayo ng recession or economic downturn. And in fact, it's the worst downturn since the martial law era. The economy dropped by almost 10% because of the lockdowns, etc. So the pink line that you see there is the trend of GDP since 2010. And you can see that pataas siya ng pataas. Now the problem is that we have deviated from this path because of the pandemic. So if you trace yung pink trend later on, you can see that we're on a lower line already. Compared to the blue one, which is yung trajectory of the Philippines had the pandemic not happened. Okay, kung hindi lang yung pandemic, nandun tayo sa blue, pero yung actual nasa pink. Okay? So, sinasabi kasi ng Marcos administration na we're still the second fastest growing economy in the region if you have heard of it. Sa Malacanang, etc. But the problem is that that's technically true, but we could be performing a lot better. So in other words, yung income ng Pilipinas na mga Pilipino in the years from now on are already lower than what they could have become. Okay? So when you crush the numbers, yung growth natin is around 5% every year or about 5 to 6%. However, that will not cut it. Okay? We need growth in the order of about 10-11% per year if we're going to go back to the pre-pandemic trajectory. Okay? So this is a huge problem. In other countries kasi, if you look at their experience, nakabalik na sila sa kanilang pre-pandemic trend. Kung parang nag-drive ka sa highway, tapos nag-veer off ka sa lane, nakabalik ka eventually. Tayo, ibang daan na yung tinatahak natin sa ngayon. Okay? So I guess that's a useful analogy. Next slide. The second message I want to share with you this morning is that we're being left behind in ASEAN. Next slide. So this graph here shows you yung income ng lahat ng 10 ASEAN economies. Okay? Yung red tayo yun. Okay? And you can see that at the outset, mas flat yung pagtaas ng income sa Pilipinas compared to almost all ASEAN economies. There was a time na mas mayaman tayo sa Vietnam, for example, pero even Vietnam, which used to be a lot poorer than us, is now richer than us in terms of GDP per capita. They exceeded us, they overtook us in 2021, and growth in Vietnam is really spectacular. Okay? They have opened up their economy to many investments. Apple has a huge presence in Vietnam, Samsung as well, and they have benefited in terms of higher incomes and higher output. Tayo sa Pilipinas, we're left behind. So sinasabi ng gobyerno, di ba? Malapit na tayo maging upper middle income country, if you've heard of that term. That only means that we're going to exceed a certain level of income na based on World Bank definitions na pag nag-exceed tayo ay technically we're going to be upper middle income country. But the problem is, for nearly 40 years, nung bang nag-start siya na late 1980s pa, before around the time I was born, lower middle income country na tayo. So ang problema is Vietnam, kung kailan lang sila naging lower middle income country noong 2005 lang or thereabouts. And now, they're on the brink of becoming an upper middle income country. So the problem is that in the Philippines, one way to boost our growth is to attract more investments, both domestically and foreign investments. But the problem is, nobody wants to locate in the Philippines. Yung mga, halimbawa, bakit yung Apple nag-choose maglagay ng malaking factory sa Vietnam at hindi sa atin? Bakit yung Samsung? Bakit doon sila nag-locate hindi sa atin? Ang mga problema, all related to bad governance. Kaya naman importante nung inyong discussion this morning, halimbawa yung red tape. Okay? Saan napakumak na permits ang kailangan mo para mag-set up ng negosyo dito sa Pilipinas? Di ba pag pumunta ka sa Jollibee, halimbawa, nakapaskil yung mga iba-iba nilang permit, di ba? Yung kanilang BIR, registration, STC, ultimate mayor's permit, barangay permit, ayun. Kaya, kung ikaw yung negosyante, ba't ka magsaset up ng negosyo sa isang lugar kung saan hundreds of signatures ang kailangan mong i-secure? Doon ka na lang sa lugar kung saan konti lang yung kailangan mo, di ba? So, and then high cost of power as well. Kapag mataas ang pressure ng kuryente, halimbawa, kuryente being yung pinaka-important for for manufacturing, for example, then doon ka sa isang bansa kung saan mababa yung cost of electricity. And then yung weak rule of law, this is a big one. Kasi hindi pwedeng yung rules are changing in the middle of the game. Halimbawa, nag-negosyo ka, meron kang mga kontrata or meron kang franchise, tapos hindi lang papawiin ng city or provincial or national government yung franchise or yung permit mo nang walang justification, then nakaka-turn off siya. In the future periods, gusto mo na lang invest sa lugar na hindi ganun ka-arbitrary ang mga rules of the game. Okay? So you want a predictable implementation of the law, but in the Philippines, we have weak rule of law. Yung mga nagnanakaw sa gobyerno ay hanggang ngayon hindi nakukulong, walang penalty kung na-slap on the wrist, wala pang slap on the wrist para sa marami sa mga mandarang mo sa gobyerno. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell when it comes to why we're left behind in the region. Next slide, please. Real wages are rising too slowly. Next slide. So, in an economy, normally, kapag lumalaki ang ekonomiya mo, tapos naging productive yung mga tao, ay dapat yung kanilang wages in real terms, ibig sabihin wages adjusted for inflation, ay tumataas din. But the problem in the Philippines is that real wages are quite flat. Ang ibig sabihin nun, yung mga sahod ng mga tao, yung kanilang kakayahang bumili ng goods and services, ay hindi tumataas over time. Okay? Hindi lang dahil halimbawa, bumaba yung minimum wage in some regions versus others, but more importantly, yung presyo ay minsan hindi nakakontrol yun. Halimbawa, tandaan nyo, diba, ang nagmahal yung bigas, minsan sibuyas, diba? Yung pagkain in general ay laki ng contribution sa inflation rate o sukat kung gaano kabilis tumataas ang presyo ng mga bilihin. And we had very drastic episodes of high inflation during the Duterte years, 2018, and then Marcos Jr. years, 2022-2023. Kaya ang dami nagre-reklamo na yung controlling inflation, if you look at the surveys, that's the most urgent national concern. Okay? At yun din, yung gustong marinig ng mga tao, every year mula sa President sa kanyang State of the Nation address, paano niya kukontrolin ang presyo ng mga bilihin. Okay? In fact, when you look at the Pulse Asia surveys, ang top concerns, most urgent national concerns, hindi yung kriminalidad, hindi yung West Philippine Sea, laging economic issues, presyo ng bilihin, trabaho, kahirapan, etc. So kaya napaka-importante you as young leaders to understand the economy and how it works. Okay? So para natin mapataasin yung real wages ng Pilipinas. So again, it goes back to productivity. We need more research and development. In the Philippines, wala pang 1% ng GDP ang investment natin sa research and development. Kailangan din natin ng mga high technology inputs. Halimbawa, when we attract Asian companies to locate in the Philippines, halimbawa, imagine if Samsung nag-choose sila na mag-locate dito sa Pilipinas, nagdadala sila, magkakayo sila, hindi lang ng mga factories, kundi yung mga technologies na ginagamit nila ay matututunan natin. Okay? We're not really just talking about Western companies we want to locate here. In fact, big successful Asian companies, maganda sana kung dito sila nag-locate, and not in countries like Vietnam. Okay? And then, of course, kailangan natin mas makontrol yung presyo na bilihin moving forward. Next slide. Fourth message, we have a 90% learning poverty rate. And this is a big one as well. Next slide. 90% learning poverty, anong ibig sabihin doon? Napakasimple. Sa bawat 10 grade 5 students, 9 ang hindi naiintindihan ang kanilang binabasa. So, pakitaan mo sila ng simple sentence or paragraph, by syllable nila yung babasahin, hindi nila maiintindihan. Okay? And this is one of the highest in the region and the world, yung 90% learning poverty rate. And essentially, ang mga kabataang Pilipino ay hindi natututo enough, okay, sa eskwelahan. Okay? You might count yourselves as the lucky ones, cream of the crop. Pero for the vast majority of Filipino students, hindi nila naranasan yung naranasan ninyo. Okay? Kumbaga parang nasasayang ang oras sila sa eskwelahan dahil hindi nila na-invite yung mga lessons na dapat ay natutunan nila. So, ito ay pinakita ng maraming mga assessments in subjects like math, science as well as reading comprehension, tignan mo, yung mga red bars, yun yung porsyento ng mga estudyante na below level 2 or very low ang kanilang proficiency. Okay? Hindi sapat or hindi man lang pasado in other words. Okay? At malaking problema ito obviously. Okay? May kinalaman dito yung stunting rate sa Pilipinas, which is still one of the highest in the region, nasa 26.7%. So kung gutom yung mga bata na pupunta sa school, ano yung aasahan mo na matutunan nila? So it's a vicious cycle. Poor learning outcomes as well as poor health outcomes. Okay? In terms of spending on education, ay nasa banda, wala pa tayong 4 to 6% of GDP based sa mga international standards. At of course, kapag walang natutunan masyado mga bata, ano yung quality ng labor force na pwede mong maasahan mula sa Pilipinas? Okay? At sinasabi ko, mayroong demographic dividend na bata yung ating labor force, etc. Pero it doesn't mean much na bata yung mga workers sa Pilipinas kung hindi rin high quality or walang natutunan sa eskwelahan. Okay? Next slide. Number 5, corruption is a huge drag on growth and development. Obvious statement, pero let's look at some details. Next slide. Yung utang ng Pilipinas, nasa bandang 17 trillion pesos na. Pero that in itself is not disturbing. Ang disturbing yung proportion ng debt sa GDP. Kasi hindi naman masama umutang per se. In fact, kailangan mo talaga umutang kung mag-invest sa education, health, etc. At kapag yung isang bansa ay mayaman, lumalaki din yung income niya. Pero, dapat kapag na-divide mo yung utang sa income, ay dapat hindi ganun kataas. Ang problema sa Pilipinas ay nasa 63.1% siya as of June of this year. At ang goal ng Marcos administration ay pababain siya to below 60%. Eh, tumataas siya. So obviously, lumalayo tayo bis na lumalapit yung sa target ng gobyerno. At tumaas siya dahil dun sa Duterte administration mula pa ng 40% noong 2019 ay lumagpas siya ng 60% at hindi na siya bumaba sa 66 din. Okay? So problematic yung utang kasi ang laking portion ng ating budget ang nasasayang sa pagbabayad ng utang lang. Okay? But even more than that, ay ang dami mga pondo ng gobyerno na sana imbis na sa utang na pupunta, pagbabayad utang ay dapat sa education, dapat sa health, sa mga meaningful na mga investments. Okay? So yun, yung deficit ng gobyerno natin is 1.5 trillion pesos. Ibig sabihin lang nun ay mas gumagastos ang gobyerno kaysa kumikita siya. Okay? It's spending beyond its means by about 1.5 trillion pesos. At saan na, so again, hindi masama umutang, okay? Pero dapat yung inuutang mo ay napunta sa mga worthwhile na investments. Ang problema ay, sabi na analyst na friend si Saika Solara, budget-based sa Twitter, ay at least 20% ng national budget na pupunta lang sa pork projects ng mga politiko. Okay? Ang bilang yung mga flood control projects, iba ang lalalang baha kahapon sa Quezon City, etc. So, ayun, marami nang nagigising sa ganung, namumulat sa ganung katotohanan na ang laking budget na nasa sa pork. Okay? Pero, other than the pork, ay importante din yung talakayin, yung pagkukuha ng pera ng Marcos administration sa mga GOCCs. Di ba, meron yung Maharlika Investment Fund na kumuha ng capital mula sa Lanka at sa Development Bank of the Philippines, state-owned banks. So, ibig na magsasaka ng isda at kooperatiba ang pinapautang, ay ginamit nila sa Maharlika Investment Fund para mag-invest ng mining as well as sa Philippine Grain Corporation. And then yung mga MUP pensions, military and uniformed personnel pensions. Ginawa ni Duterte, dinoble niya yung pasahod sa mga pulis at militar, pero ang implication ay dumoble din yung pensyon ng mga retiradong pulis at militar. Okay? Kaya kung gusto mo kumita sa Pilipinas, number 1, maging DPWH contractor ka. Okay? Number 2, maging pulis o militar ka dahil ang laki ng pensyon na makukuha mo at hindi sila nag-contribute sa kanilang sariling pensyon in the same way that we do, or you will later on, napapawasan yung income mo para sa pension later. Hindi sila nagagalaga. Ang nagpupondo sa pension nila ay tayo bilang mga taxpayers. So, kung hindi ma-resolve ito, ang utang ng gobyerno sa MUPs nasa bandang 4 trillion pesos. So, eh hindi naman mapapasa ng gobyerno yung 4 trillion kasi kapag inatake mo yung pension nila, ay magagalit naman yung polis at militar. Kaya maingay din si Baguio Mayor Benjamin Magalong na dating general ng PNP. Nagsimula siya magingay about corruption noong inaatake ng MUP pensions. Okay? So we can talk a bit more about that later. Next slide. Okay, patapos na pala. Talarn na lang ako. So what can we do? Next slide. Ayan, sabi, una mo tayo magpapabaliwala masyado sa mga statement ng gobyerno. Always take with a big grain of salt yung mga statements coming from the economy. You just listen to them, sasabihin nila, oh, impressive lahat, maganda naman, maganda yung economic situation natin, but the statistics say otherwise. Next slide. So, yeah, kailangan natin promote ng number of high-paying jobs, okay, and more investments, but we need to sort out the business climate in the Philippines. Boost infrastructure, reduce the cost of permits and power, solve congestion in traffic, and strengthen the rule of law. Yung education and health investments need to be beefed up. And finally, kailangan ayusin yung budget process kasi hindi naman talaga mahirap ang Pilipinas at sayang yung maraming pera natin sa corruption. So lahat ng mga sumasayang sa pera natin ay dapat mapanagot. So again, good governance equals good economics. Next slide. Ayun na. So if you want to learn more, I have a weekly column sa Rappler. You can check it out. Various issues I talk about there. Next slide. Ayan, false nostalgia. Nakakabaon ng ilang copies I think give out. Pero about debunking the myths during the Marcos years, Golden Age years. Next slide. And then I'm coming up with my second book, tungkol naman sa ekonomiya sa panahon ni Duterte. Okay, so sana makarating kayo sa book launch March next year. Next slide. Ayun na po, maraming salamat.